Does anybody know how you flip the camera? Like you do on your,
Is it upside down?
no, it's at me.
Well, it should be kind of like you do it. White honey. So.
Yeah.
Are you ready, Ashley? Call this meeting of the Police and Fire Advisory Committee for the City of Bisbee to order, 5:30, August 30th. Can you call roll for us?
Yes, committee members Craig Emanuel, Ward 1,
Present.
Thomas Patterson, Ward 1,
Here.
Cynthia Conroy, Ward 2,
Here.
Mary Kay Wojtovich, Ward 2,
Here.
and Frank Davis, Council Liaison.
Present. Fire and police. So, Frank, are you gonna give us a lowdown on what's going on with the police chief? I'm sorry, first we gotta approve the minutes. Does anyone,
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from last week.
second,
I'll second it.
all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, passed. Okay, the first agenda item is we're not to the chief. Follow-up and discussion on courthouse parking. Do you have any feedback on, you know what we're talking about?
Yeah, I do. I haven't heard any further talk about what's going on. Supposedly in the works, it's up to the county to make the move. I haven't heard anything about it. I'll try to get some information. So,
Yeah, I know that the city manager.
yeah, they agreed to do it, and then we plan to do it. I don't know what their timeline is.
I'd like to comment on that, Mr. Chairman, Craig Emanuel, that failure to do so is still adversely affecting the Catholic Church in its ability to have egress to its facility. And so when they have vehicles trying to unload large quantities of food and other perishable items to provide to our community, the parking situation doesn't allow vehicles to enter into that area right now. So it is a serious.
Funerals and weddings.
That's-
And that did, not in the function.
Yeah, right, this is good.
Right. It's a mess.
So, do we make a motion to have somebody, follow up on this or something? Do we decide noting for the third time that it's a problem? Is there some person amongst us who's supposed to call the county manager and give us some dates and say,
Can we invite him to a meeting or something?
no, that would be 3 months from now. I think it'd be more.
I can look into it for you.
Who?
Okay.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, because it's also your district, right?
It is.
Yeah, so you have double.
Something to-
Double jeopardy, get on that, okay, good.
So we can anticipate a report. at-
Sure, well, probably next Friday.
We'd rather anticipate some pain. Absolutely.
Did they ask you if we get that
Yes.
I mean, I saw a truck the other day that literally parked out in the middle of the, well, it was in the middle, it was parked out in the middle of the road where you turn left. You had to go almost in the other towards the church to get past this big truck. See that?
We're gonna have a Ward 1 meeting on the 10th of October. And so hopefully by then I'll have some information.
Of October?
Yep, at the Central School at 10 o'clock.
Cynthia, what's the date of the race?
But we take control of that whole area.
I know you do. I was just trying to see what it was in relation to.
Yeah. Stop cars from parking there. That was at Lincoln School, sir?
No, it's
Central?
Central.
What time?
10 o'clock, 10 to 12.
Happy on me. Okay. All discussion on downtown speed enforcement.
Craig Emanuel, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna mention that I reached out to the police department prior to this meeting, and I didn't have any updates to report. But I did check.
You know, on that issue, you didn't have any update?
Downtown speed enforcement, I
Right.
don't have any updates to report.
You know, Frank, going south on 80, enter downtown. You've got two 25-mile-an-hour signs that are even solar powered. And so that means people coming off the 45-mile-an-hour limit probably split the difference and they hit downtown at about 35. And you can't see people step out between those cars.
Right, because, you know, even up on our, on top to some. The speed limit.
And we were told at one time there was a prohibition against only school zones can be 15. That's not true. Talked to our representative in the state, and the police chief even followed up on it. There's nothing that stops us from doing it. If they just change those two. Well, and there are some scattered 15-mile-an-hour signs. Discussion on police chief hiring process to include alternatives, contract police, services, and police salaries.
Just mentioned a couple things. Is this for us or is this for now?
Well,
I can answer the question. When the agenda was created, I do not believe we had an established police. So I didn't need it in here, but I can let you know that, Sergeant Tim of the Bisbee Police Department was promoted to the position of police chief. And the effective date, within this current pay period, so within 2 weeks.
we've had this on the agenda since before the old chief retired. And I believe the advice, I believe the new police chief should be here. Yeah. To meet the police and fire advisory. And we should have been consulted along the way. We've had this on our agenda. It seems like forever.
Mr. Chairman, Craig Emanuel,
Yes.
comment about item number 4. I wholeheartedly agree. Police advisory, which advice is our function, not to deliver actual delivery of service, but it's advice. We should have been discussed, sought out in the process of chief of police. And contract policing, contractual agreements. I also understand that our dispatching services with Bisbee PD and now they outsource. And again, that should have been something where our advice as experts in the field of policing and or citizenry involvement of members of the committee gets an input to help steer the city in the right direction. So I am very upset that we weren't contacted or a representative wasn't involved in the selection process, or that there wasn't a community involvement of meet the new chief of police in this selection process. Just a comment.
You know, to second that, there's still the classic disconnect, which, you know, you gotta wonder the root of it.
Well, I think when the spirit moves, then things happen. Unfortunately, we come before this community. Should have, because it's kind of your purpose. It was news to me. I didn't know they were selecting Mr. Cox to the last council. And it was announced. It was chief.
Well, when we were gonna discuss this at one time, the city manager told me they didn't want to hire from within because it hasn't worked in the past. And they didn't want to discuss it in our open meeting because it would upset the other police officers. And then when all is said and done, they hire from within. We hired a sergeant, promoted him, John, was that a typical promotion, Mr.? Does he have the requisite training and certification?
He was in the military.
Well, I don't know, there's certification process.
Yeah, I don't know, John, you know.
What he is.
Okay,
Previous. How long has he been with?
Well, it's close to hiring. It's been here his whole life.
you know, I gotta say, each of these items on here, we hammer out, and every one of us was good as a community. Whether it's not wanting our courthouse and church to burn down because they can't get to it, not having some pedestrian or visitor being run over,
Because they're going to do that.
right? Knowing what's happening with our police department. And, you know, the graffiti, which will come up next. I mean, those are all important issues in the community. And we have talked about it, we have advised, we have no feedback at all. It's just ridiculous. And,
Are we one of the communities that's started?
we're standing committee. Yeah.
Is the requirement of the presence of the chief of police or stand-in from some other officer, not a requirement of that charter piece of paper?
Problem with them.
Well, we had two names of fire department people on the agenda, neither one showed up. I got a last minute note from Joel that, they haven't had time to pick representatives yet. But being that our chief was already working in the department, it's not like we brought in a bunch of new people. It's the same group that's been there for some time. One person could show up.
Well, it seems to me that the chief could have either shown up, or at least we can have a really good explanation, Joel, about why he's not here. Do you have that? As the city, yeah, not your job, right? Not your job.
It's not that it's not my job, I don't have the answer to the question.
Okay.
I can. When it covers the committee, I can do that for follow-up.
Yeah, I just know we're a standing committee, which means it's a committee that's established by the city,
We'll just see.
as opposed to the ad hoc committee like Feral Cat Committee, which has never met since it's been formed. Which maybe all right, that would be fine if you could get that. Item 5, follow-up discussion on the graffiti hotline and usage. Correct? You want to?
Well, I'm pleased to say that we have on the Bisbee webpage the graffiti hotline. The question that we were asking in number 5 was, please tell us the data. Have we been getting calls on the graffiti hotline? Is this working or is this not working? And again, that was to be brought to us by the police department representative here tonight. Here. Which begs the question of making the agenda of this evening.
Well, it makes it really easy for us to just do the same agenda.
Yeah, it's
And I'll do my
been,
best.
we have taken action on every one of these things.
In discussion.
Well, to the extent that we can act. I mean, if my body in here is actually. But I mean, we have worked on these items. We've discussed them at great length. We had one meeting that went, I went, what, 2 or 3 days, Cynthia? We were just,
At the Ward 1 meeting, I'll try to have some answers for these questions.
okay.
But it's gonna be a while, I don't know when the next time. Probably 3 months.
Well, we had started meeting on a regular basis, and then the city manager was met to, all the city committees and commissions were going to meet all the time. And then there wouldn't have enough city employees to attend all the meetings, which in my wildest imagination, I cannot see all the committees and boards and commissions meeting on a couple of times a month. Many of them don't even meet a year, once a year. But, so we were discouraged. Our last meeting was canceled. And when is the next projected meeting to be?
It's quarterly, so 3 months it would be in November. Yes, towards the end of November, probably after Thanksgiving holiday. Or right before it, which we can plan ahead for that.
Let's push it to the early part of November. After the race, before Thanksgiving.
Well, so what day, we meet on Tuesday?
We have to meet at 5:30, that's not it. But we don't want to meet when the council's meeting. Right, does the council and the school board make sure they don't conflict with each other, or they on different days?
They're on this day. I don't know how that works, but the city doesn't really have much to do with the schools.
That's pretty sad when you think about it.
But, I mean, because the schools are run by the county. So the city doesn't.
Well, I know, but schools are run by this. Is the Unified School District school board.
Yes, but
The county, no, I know, but the county superintendent of education oversees education for the whole county. But we have our own school district,
right,
the second oldest in the state.
but the city doesn't have any direct.
Well, I understand, but that's one of the problems is city, the school system, and the business community might as well be in 3 different communities.
Okay, we can't solve that, but I would like to remind everyone that this on my calendar, or it's automatically here, if we have to know that so well, it says PFAC meeting, November 22nd, at this address, that's calendar. And the only way it got there,
Well,
well,
we'll-
well sent it, because I don't believe in else calendar in there. That's not, it's my thought.
Well, is there anybody who would object to moving it up a little bit?
Well,
Let me see what
22nd, otherwise it can be the 15th, but.
That's only 60 days. Yes,
November 1st and 15th will be council meetings.
So I think we should just leave it.
Or, I mean, I can look and see if there are other dates available, I just have to check with.
No, the 8th is election day, I think let's just leave it at the 22nd.
Okay.
I don't think you should complicate.
well,
It's like anything, stick to the date you got, because if you start messing with it, it has an impact.
Then you know you could use this.
Okay, so we know when we're doing, the others agenda will be up again. Right?
yeah, and I would ask both our staff and council liaisons to please do whatever you can to see if you can get some kind of response on these issues that have come up month after month after month. And attendance by somebody from police and fire is really an issue.
I thought the city manager was supposed to be here.
Well, we had on the agenda, it said that the mayor was going to be here.
Where did it say that?
Well, it's on the first, it doesn't say it on it now, but it did. But if you look at the minutes, we had two police, two police. I mean, we had the chief of police here. Now, we had two fire representatives, we had the city manager,
You start off with saying,
and we had the acting police chief. So carry this agenda forward. Do you, are there suggestions for other items? And do you have a report, a staff report?
I would like to make a recommendation. Table one man, two. Anyway, I think that we really need to look at, the homeless. I know that we're having a homeless influx in the Warren area, and I know there's still a major issue in this area. There are several encampments around. So, I think that, and I sit on the board with the Bisbee Coalition of the Homeless. And I think it would be imperative for us to start working together as a committee, if the rules allow us to see if we can come up with a solution. Because, you know, they're only, I think their staffing is minimal, and I know they can only keep so many, and, clients, and, they have some other facilities within the community that they can send them to housing instead of the ones that are working in the operation. So I think we really need to look at that issue, and I would hopefully, be able to, if Joelle, you would send an email, or, Mr. Davis, if you could, you know, send something to the chief of police. I think it's very important, you know, as a public safety issue, to the people of Warren and Old Bisbee, the situation that, to me, is totally out of control.
and I would like to second that by saying that we, as this police and advisory committee, already represent all three wards, except for short here on the three.
Yeah.
As always.
We have.
But rather, what cities and people often do is they say, oh, let's start a new committee, and if you know, get anybody interested. So I think if we could, politically speaking, make sure that maybe we can do it. And I guess I said it to be agenda for next time.
What we do business.
Yeah, your new business, but we could ask the city and the chief of police and the sheriff's office and the mayor and the city manager's office, that if and when you intend to look at the problem, which we're recommending you do, that you add people to this committee for a special session instead of, like, you're already on the board, you got dual hats, you know. We've all got, you know, interests in being able to play.
Someone in the coalition.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, well, we do that.
Right, but I think we should.
No, I would, we used,
But the big thing is that somebody, there's been no will from the politicians to deal with this issue. The most classic reaction is, if you move them from Old Bisbee to Warren, then, you haven't solved the problem, right? Or if you do nothing with them, or you claim you can't do anything with them because they're not on private property or city property, they're on PD property or state property. Everybody wants to pass the buck, right? This is the biggest pass the buck that's run already created problem.
it's a human problem.
Yeah.
It's a-
It's a public safety issue, right? And right now, my understanding is that there is a big encampment, right, in San Jose, right behind the safe one. Right, so my suggestion is, that's a good place for encampment, I guess, if we have to have one, keeps having 3 and more, and 5 and 50, you know, they're smaller. But then somebody should put some design behind it. You should actually ask the homeless protector, what do they want? They want another month, they want this, they want that, okay. They at least need basic help, like I said, you know, why can't you get a big retreat, let's call it the war, you know, the war on, not the war on the homeless, but the war on unsanitary living conditions. So the war is that we want sanitary living conditions for everybody, for everybody. So if you go to the tree, just like in the war days, you fill it with the right stuff, and you undercut all the bushes, so snakes and homeless and other people can't hide under the bushes, from everything from wild animals to things survey the hospital, find out how many come in from dog bites and snake bites, and other kind of bug bites and diseases that they are spreading. So we had some of that data, for someone interested in getting it, which if we form this as a subcommittee of our committee, you know. We have people dedicated, besides just complaining or protecting, depending on their political persuasion. I think it'd be a really very useful thing for this committee. It's a safety, it's a police and fire. I personally have called the city manager back before it started to rain and said, this whole PB burns down, it's gonna be because of the 5 guys that are right up there above the post office on state land, that I see them come and go with their cigarettes, with their matches, with their, you name it. The wind is gonna go, blow right down here, and you can say bye-bye to all this garbage. And I just want to go on record with you, that I said it was gonna happen, because it's gonna happen, so not this year, but next year.
Well, the items that we have, we've done all we can do. We're waiting for a response.
Right, but that doesn't mean.
So, no, but what I'm saying, this is something we can take on.
Right.
And we can be the clearinghouse.
If we're
And
interested.
we already have fire and police are supposed to be here.
That's right.
We have the council here. We have the city staff here, a few more cogs. And we can deal with that issue within our committee.
Maybe we can find someone else in District 3 that's interested in this problem, wants to join this committee. We take on this and let the newspaper know we're taking it on, but we can't decide that tonight, right? We just have to make an agenda item and vote to
Yes.
make a dedicated.
Yeah, we discussed it tonight.
Right, Greg, is there anything?
It's not on the agenda, so it's really.
Right now, we're discussing food truck.
Yeah, so you can put on the
So
agenda.
the form in which it's on the agenda, I will work with all of you and feed in, so that we got this broad.
Frankly, the policy, but in my opinion. That's
Oh,
some of the reason about it. Can you figure out exactly the sentence that we right now could say we want to,
Oh, really?
on the agenda item for next time?
You have to work with Joel on that agenda. And Tom.
Yeah. Right. So I would do that would be great.
All
And
inclusive.
Kay and I would be happy. It's one thing that we done with the church does. It's another thing to have a plan to how to keep them from multiplying because we have such a great environment. And so they're shooting them here from,
Well,
they're talking to one another and coming in cars, on trains and.
inflation you're creating.
But for their
It's-
sake, not for our sake, for their sake, we need to know our city has a plan or policy or not wait for everything to burn down and blow up, you know?
You're right, everybody's looking at someone else to take care of.
That's right.
Is there someone in the homeless that is kind of speaks for them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They have a board and they
So
know,
are they getting safely in Ward 3?
I'm not sure, but I know.
It is, yeah.
Can we have enough water?
It's 10-town home
But tonight, you guys should just put this on the agenda for next time.
No, we are.
Because I think you're discussing.
That's true, we
We're
are.
not supposed to be discussing, it's not on the agenda.
Okay. So we
So
want
just
to,
put it on the agenda and you can brainstorm after the meeting or whatever, and the next meeting you'll be ready to go. Tonight, you've got to kind of,
okay, we're done.
Well, I will be adjourned 10 minutes ago, so this discussion has been,
So we know what's on our future agenda, right?
can we go back in time?
If we get a staff liaison report, we'll look for.
See if we have one.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn at 6:02 p.m.
Okay.
Second.
Anybody opposed?
Great. Next week. I'm gonna bring you guys. That whole overgrown weeded lot. And scout it out and I'm gonna ask somebody to come